You are listening to Fantha tracks.
Because of the following special program, Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk will not be presented this evening.
It's time to get all your Star Wars news in a single file. This is Making Tracks. Here are your hosts, Mark Newbold and Mark Mulcaster.
That's not true. That's impossible.
You're listening to Making Tracks. I'm Mark Newbold, and joining me today is, well, as I do often, I'm going to let him introduce himself. Introduce yourself, dude.
Hello, my name's Mark Mulcaster, and I am friends and family to everybody who ever needs a favour.
That's handy. That's handy you say that, because I actually need my drains cleaning. So when we finish recording, I'm only 2 hours away. That's really good to know. I'm very well. We've got an episode here dedicated to our recent trip to the National Space Centre and return of the Garrison in Leicester, where we spoke to loads of people and we had loads of fun. And we didn't take enough badges to hand out, so we ran out of badges. And then we ran out of stickers.
We did.
Yeah, and then you gave us some trading cards to hand out, and they all went. And I think we got rid of everything except for the tablecloth.
Well, ironically, isn't that tablecloth something that looked like it'd been stolen from Celebration? Because it looked like it said Star Wars Celebration on it.
It wasn't stolen. It was gifted.
Liberated.
Yeah, maybe. It grew legs for a while. But anyway, we had a great time at the show. We had a wonderful time at the show. And amongst the many people we spoke to, two of them were both very usefully called Jake. Jake Lunt Davies, concept artist on the current run of Star Wars movies, and Jake Detonator, who's been a Lucasfilm approved artist for years and years and years and just done all sorts of stuff. If you've been to a Celebration, you've either seen his artwork or his artwork's on the badges that you use to get into a show. But before we dive into our chats with the two Jakes, including their Sunday panel in the planetarium, the Sir Patrick Moore Planetarium, Return of the Garrison. It's been going a long time. I think 2005 was the first one. My first Garrison with Lightsaber, my old site, was in 2007. Do you remember the first time you went down to, or rather up to Leicester?
To be honest, I don't. It would have been between Celebration Europe 2 and Celebration Europe 3.
Right.
So I'm going to pull our 2014 date out of the air. Maybe 2013. But yeah, that's the thing. It's always had, from the costume clubs, has always had a really good reputation. Like Malika, who organises it at the National Space Centre, is fantastic. She looks after the clubs really well. She always puts on these kind of like social events in the evening. And it's a completely different vibe, because it's not really a Comic-Con, but it's not like any other event. It's all for families, really. The people who turn up for that weekend are either Star Wars fans themselves, such as yourself, or it's, families with younger kids who are into Star Wars at that point in time. So it's very focused, and it means that you get a lot of engagement, which is always really fun because it gives a day energy and it's always a nice kind of vibe there. So definitely one that I know for me anyway is in the diary once a day gets announced for the next year.
Yeah, I think we're kind of the same. It's a bit like Star Wars Fan Fun Day. You always plan to try and keep that weekend free because you know you're going to have a good time. And as you say, Malika does such a good job. The mixer on the Saturday night that we had was a great laugh, even though there were no good singers in that room, apart from Malika, who does a really good Debbie Harry, but everybody else was appalling, but had such good fun. Apart from you, Mark, of course, you were wonderful.
Absolutely not.
And like you say, yeah, it's such an interesting room.
Yeah.
The shape of the room, there's everywhere you look, there's something to look at, and in any direction, there's just a buzz and a vibe going on, and we really get a kick out of it for sure. I
mean, I like the kind of the exhibits that they have there because they're interactive and obviously so they're educational, but also they're quite historical in respects. They kind of show kind of like the evolution of spacesuits. And so they actually had the RAF high altitude test pilot suit that basically is what Bosk wears. They had that out on display, and they had actually a guy kind of do these kind of talks every kind of an hour or so about it, just explaining what it was and why it wasn't practical to wear and all that, but also then kind of dipping into like the fact that the vest is basically the vest that Luke Skywalker and all the X-Wing pilots wear in the original trilogy. And like I said, Bosk and Bo Shak wears a version of that as well. And it just happened that I was walking past as he was talking, so he kind of pulled me to one side and kind of like was pointing at my vest as well, and we were kind of looking at the various, similarities and stuff like that, which is fantastic. For me, I got a chance to kind of get up close and personal with the actual very vest that I've been wearing as a replica for like the last 8 years. And you don't get that kind of opportunity very often.
No, you don't. And you don't get the opportunity to speak to people like Lunt Davies very often, who will take real life things and turn them into space magic, like he did with the puffins on Skellig Michael, turning them into the Porgs, doing wonderful work. So we had a quick chat with Jake, talking all about his work on the sequel trilogy and Rogue One and Solo. So here's us talking to Jake Lunt Davies at the National Space Centre, Return of the Garrison in Leicester.
Right, so we're at the National Space Centre in Leicester. I'm here with Jake Lunt Davies. How are you and how's your weekend been?
I'm very good. My weekend has been very interesting. This is the kind of first event like this I've been to. It's the end of the day. I am pretty tired. Yeah. I've been talking non-stop. I've had a desk selling some sketches and chatting to people. Lots of questions about Star Wars, lots of questions about how to be an artist and get in the industry and any advice. It's half Star Wars facts, half career tips.
Right. Was this experience, because I've got to say, for this to be a first show, you picked a good one, because this is an amazing location. It's busy, there's stuff going on. Jake was next to you, there's Bob Breakin opposite you.
Yeah,
people
that's
all
Jake Detonator, with the two of us.
Have you enjoyed it? Was it what you expected?
It was, dare I say, more than one expects. Yeah. I didn't know what to expect, and I knew it would be fun. I mean, I was talking to various people who'd done it before. Yeah. And they're, you have a great time. And I didn't doubt I would, but it was really cool. Yeah, it was lovely. I chatted, met so many families and kids, and all got questions. Brilliant.
And when you're explaining to a kid, for example, who may have watched you draw your stuff, they're watching people doodle and get into things, how do you explain how you got into it in the first place? Getting it across to a youngster? It
depends on who I'm talking to. I mean, the little kids, a lot of the little ones can't even quite grasp the fact that anyone designs this stuff. Yeah. It's real, and the fact that movie making and the work behind movie making is just a concept beyond their kind of cognition. They just don't understand. It's like they look a bit bemused. I've had older kids though that are like in the early teens, and they're the ones that are, they're asking how do you do this and what do you do this, and they know more about the process. So, but I skip a few details. I'd just say I presented this to JJ. There's a huge. I'm not that chatting to JJ all the time. I just make it that a bit shorter. Yeah, they get the idea.
And just to pick one thing, and we'll talk again at length at some point down the road, but just to pick one thing, let's say, I don't know, the Porgs. Yes. When you're designing a character, a creature that you know is going to be featured, and that's a unique one because we know you've got the basis of the puffins, so there's something to start with. How many iterations of that are you doing? How many things are you laying out for somebody to go, that's...
Well, weirdly you chose the Porgs because the Porgs I kind of got very successful very quickly, and I probably I did a sketch for that design in the first day or two. There was a thing which, you look at it and go, that's a Porg. And it was, Ryan looked at it and went, I like that, I like that one. Yeah. And that was that really. And I went off and, it was probably a couple of days to get to the point where he thought that's going to be the Porg. After that, it was quite long. I mean, it would take a couple of months. I mean, it's a very staggered thing because we're working on so many other creatures that I'll do a big chunk of refining that design, and then some other stuff will happen, and then a week later we'll all have a meeting again. So it takes a bit of, and then even down to them doing colourways on feathers and eye designs.
Nothing's linear in that sense.
No,
so much going on.
Yeah, exactly. But other things like Dio, that took twice as long because it was. I mean, we had to sort of sign off every single detail, all the sort of tread patterns. Go and have a meeting. All the the little bumps around the edge of his hub. Go and have a meeting. Just double check the cone. We did 10 different shapes of cone. Short ones, fat ones, different angles, different pointy ends. Just to sort of make sure we've got it right. Give them all the options.
And what's the satisfaction like when you go from seeing it on paper yourself? You've drawn it, on a 2D piece, and then the little guy wheels in, or one of the puppeteers gets those Porgs moving.
Well, it's beyond that, right? There's various stages of satisfaction. You go to a sculpting room and you see it being realised in 3D. That's like, oh my God, wow, this is amazing. People are making this. People are making stuff out of my head. Yeah. And then, you see it when they finish making it, and that's another stage. You see it on screen, that's another stage. You think that will be the end of it. But then you come like somewhere like here, or just out and about on a street, and you see a kid wearing a BB-8 backpack. That's the next level. There's more, right? Because you think, wow, that kid's gone, or, a parent has, a kid has wanted the BB-8 top, and they want that design, and they like it, they fall in love with it. But then today, this is where the end of this satisfaction road goes. I see, not today, it was yesterday, there was a chap here with his Boba Joe outfit. Yes. I'm using that as an example. Anyone that's taken the time and effort to make a costume of the thing that you thought of, that's it. You've done it. That's ultimate satisfaction. And it's like, I saw Boba Joe and I thought, that's amazing.
So you would do an event like this again?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Tiring. I might have to sort of, I need a slightly longer lunch break.
We'll let you get some sleep.
Fantastic.
And we'll speak again in the future. But,
it'd be good.
Thanks for joining us.
Cheers then. Thank you.
Jake Lunt Davies and Jake Detonator did 2 panels on each day in the Sir Patrick Moore Planetarium at the National Space Centre. We recorded them both, but Jake Detonator said, use the Sunday one. I think it was better. So here's the Sunday talk of the 2 Jakes on stage in this beautiful, and we know because you heard our 2 episodes recently that we did in the planetarium, in this beautiful room at the National Space Centre with Senator Garrison.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yes.
I feel like, has everybody seen Jaws? I feel like y'all know me, y'all know what I do for a living. But then maybe you don't. I've done the Space Centre Star Wars thing on and off for about 10 years, so I know I've met a lot of you before. And it feels a bit silly introducing myself, but then there's probably loads of you who don't know who I am. So I'm Jake Detonator. I'm an artist and a writer, and I make things and make lots of different things, but we're here to talk about Star Wars, and I've worked as a freelance illustrator for Star Wars. The other Jake is Jake Lunt Davies, and he's an artist that does a lot of other things, but we're here to talk about Star Wars, and he's a concept artist on the Star Wars films. So this is the 2 Jakes. Hello again.
Hello again.
How are you doing? All right. Do you want to break it down more professionally? What's your job in the Star Wars thing?
I'm a concept artist and storyboard artist, and I worked on all the new sequels and spin-off films and Andor, which is out next week. And I worked for the creature effects department, and I designed aliens and droids. So I would sit there and do BB-8, and I did the Lugger Beast and Ray Speeder and the Porgs and Dio, to name but a few.
Which is pretty good, isn't it? It's like mic drop. Mic drop. So I do... I'm going then. I don't work on the films. I do for 20-odd years on and off. So mine stuff's the cartoony stuff. You might have seen the books, How to Speak Wookiee, How to Speak Droid with BB-8, and How to Speak Astromech. How to Speak Droid with...
You can read it.
I can't say it. How to Speak Wookiee sounded good. The rest of them.
Human.
Not even that anymore. So I do things like the books. I do a thing. Does Lucasfilm have a thing called a style guide? So I'd often work for Lucas Licensing, which is Lucasfilm's. Lucasfilm's the company that do Star Wars. It's Lucasfilm's licensing division. So the toys, the T-shirts, all the stuff you guys buy is a separate kind of department. And often I would work for them, and my work goes on stickers, kids lick and stick tattoos. You go to Disney World, it's all mugs and badges. I don't keep up with what it's on because I don't get a royalty on any of it. So my stuff is for print mainly. My job is to take some. So Jake designs BB-8, and then I have to go, how do you make that work on a graphic that's going to work on a pin on a book? Does that make sense? That's the two separate things. So I've been lucky that Jake Lunt Davies is really good at designing Star Wars things, in my opinion. And we've talked, when we first met, we talked about 70s design aesthetic, and Star Wars particularly. The idea that it's all just shapes that are...
Well, there's always this very big thing about strong shapes and strong designs, which is one of the sort of things that is, I think, Star Wars gets right, and why the things become iconic. And you can break down so many Star Wars designs into, like with Dio, he's a circle and a triangle at the very, very basic level, and BB-8 is a circle and a hemisphere, and in silhouette. That's the important thing. When you see them in silhouette, you know who they are. So a lot of Star Wars designs, why they're so successful is because they're so simple.
And before I met Jake, as a fan of some of the designs, my favourite things in The Force Awakens were designed by Jake and another friend of mine, Glyn Dillon. So Glyn designed all the Stormtroopers, Rey's costume, Finn's costume. So between you two, there's a lot of people, Kylo Ren's helmet, there's a lot of people involved, and I know it's other people worked on BB-8 as well as you.
I'm just sort of the end. Yeah, I think there's two of us did BB-8.
But I think the strike rate of you doing the iconic things is pretty impressive. I've never asked you this, and I was curious. You said it BB-8. Is it meant to look like a bee?
I think it's not meant to. I don't know. I think
it's a bit like
that. It does look
a bit like a bee, and it's a bit like a baby.
Yes.
Right? Somebody went baby out to do something like baby one or baby. Is that?
I think that was probably. I don't know. It sounds like a.
It sounds right, doesn't it?
The baby bit does.
Yeah.
Because it was meant to be this sort of young, juvenile, little
toddler one.
Yeah, R2's grown up and sensible. He's a bit more cheeky.
Yeah, the R2 grown up and sensible, that don't make sense, does it? That's not. So let's just take that as fact, what we just said about it looking like a bee, right? It's fact. We work for Lucasfilm, it's fact. Did anybody come and see this yesterday? You've never seen us two before, have you? Doing this? Okay, all right, we can repeat some of it. We didn't talk about George Lucas yesterday, did we?
No, we didn't talk about George Lucas.
So I keep getting asked if I met George Lucas, and I haven't met George Lucas. I got in a room with him. You met George Lucas?
I met George Lucas.
What's your George Lucas story?
George Lucas came to visit the set on at the end of Force Awakens as we were moving into Rogue One. And he came as a special guest, George Lucas. He came around and we all shook his hand. And then we had this big, Brian Herring, who operates and puppeteers BB-8, was all lined up to get BB-8 to roll out, and for George. And he rolled out, and George looked at it and went, I'd have done it CGI. Like, damn you, George.
Which I love.
I think he's
that you're just like, you idiots, I would have done it on a computer. It's perfect, isn't it? So apparently on all the films, from what I've heard, like on Rogue One, he was sat with Gareth, the director, and showed him some rushes, and he went, that looks awful. That looks like... just messing around with you. He sounds really mischievous.
I think he is...
Imagine watching all these children trying to recreate the thing you did in the 70s without thinking about it properly, and he's just thinking it's really surreal.
It's nerve-wracking knowing that George Lucas is looking at the work you're doing. It's just crazy. Yeah.
So my George Lucas thing, I don't know if the slide's gone around yet. Have you seen the one, there's a photograph of George Lucas sat with Harrison Ford? Has that come up yet? There we go. So that's George Lucas in a brown T-shirt looking at Harrison Ford dressed as Indiana Jones on the set of Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. That's Kathleen Kennedy, who now is the boss of Lucasfilm. There's another shot like 3 seconds later where Steven Spielberg's in it. So Harrison Ford's looking at a T-shirt that I drew with Han Solo on it that says "Hand shot first." I think that's why Brexit happened. I don't know what happened. The universe kind of ripped itself inside. So George Lucas is wearing a T-shirt I designed, and every so often somebody emails me that and goes, "Dude, have you seen this?" And I go, I don't earn any money from that. I don't know what to do. But it's kind of blowing my mind that. So Lucasfilm years ago went, George really, like in the 90s, went, George really likes your stuff. He thinks it's super, super cool. He's like, it's his favorite merchandise. And I'm like, yeah, as if he's seen it. Do you know what I mean? I was like, as if. Americans are really good at lying, I thought. I was like, as if he's ever seen any of this stuff. And then that happens, and I don't know why. And there's Harrison Ford looking at the T-shirt. It looks like he's going, my nose ain't that big. Harrison Ford's seen and it's not even my best. I've done some really good Han Solos. That's not a particularly good one. That was always a bit like,
it was brilliant.
Oh, no, I've got better ones. Anyway, that's usually my Jedi mic drop. But I mean, he's actually.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so get the George Lucas stuff out of the way. There was a point where he was in a room. We were in the same room, and he was coming to meet the artists. And a load of vintage toy dealers messed it up because they all started getting his autograph, and his security guards just went. He wanted to see the guys who'd built a giant TIE fighter at Celebration. Some Germans had built a TIE fighter, and he wanted to come and see us lot. And the vintage toy dealers spoil it. So, one day. I don't know what I'd say to him, really.
Looking at this slide, though, this is where you have to translate. This is all my concept art that I did when I was designing BB-8, and just at the very, very top, I'm sort of going, oh well, let's go back.
We didn't have the device yesterday.
Oh God, I've lost it. I'm not into IT. Sorry. There we go. Sorry. At the very top, I get asked this a lot. Where does BB-8 come from? Who designed? Where's the idea come from? That very top yellow, I'm pointing up there, the yellow post-it note is a photocopy of J.J. Abrams' original little sketch. And he said, I want, that's his idea. And the little picture below is by another concept artist called Christian Altsman, who works in the States for Lucasfilm. And that's his first pass at BB-8. And it still wasn't quite right. So when I've done it again. I tell a good story. But when I joined, because JJ still wasn't happy, he wanted me to take what Christian had done and take it further. So I took elements of Christian, the colour, I moved the eye so it became this one big eye rather than two eyes and a mouth, because it was a little bit too anthropomorphic.
Yeah, Christian's just got a smile, hasn't it?
It has a bit, really. I made it more like R2-D2. And did all the panel designs. And then, obviously, all those details are there, and then Jake then has to sort of translate that into a much more simpler version for marketing purposes.
But I drew one on the back of a train ticket in the hotel on Friday night. I was sort of saying this thing about when I have to draw for you. If you guys want to buy the book, I quickly draw BB-8 in it, and I said it's with a Sharpie, which is a fat felt tip because it's on a board book. And I was saying it still looks like BB-8, and that's kind of part of the genius of it. I can do like a 3-second version of it, and it still looks like BB-8. And you don't have to put all the details on.
I do.
You do. So watching Drake draw his version this week, and I'm like, I don't put the bit under his head, and I just like took the thing and went, what's the simplest version I can do of it? Because I'm lazy, but you don't need to put all the tiny little details on it. But it's a great design to draw. It's like a really fun thing.
And then you can do silly things like this, which is giant tank versions, and
which I love.
You can see BB-8 in the corner for scale, but. This is it. Oh, look, it's gone again. Here we go.
We were talking yesterday about maybe trying to pitch that to Disney. The idea that we're like two old, like really broken samurais, right? Because the thing they don't tell you about Star Wars, it's a privilege in it to work for Star Wars. We loved it when we were kids. And,
yes.
What they don't tell you, we're going to reveal it now. They make you have the same haircuts and the same beards.
Girl beards, Jedi beards.
My name's not actually Jake. This is true. My accountant doesn't call me Jake. My mum doesn't call me Jake. I'm not telling you what it is. Yeah, so it's this weird cult that you have to have the same haircut and the same name, and I drew the line at the same shoes. I've never been into Vans. It's not my thing, so so we're going to pitch a show where we're driving around in that tank in a desert, but we're like sort of
crushing stormtroopers.
Yeah, but we're sort of Jedis that went to art college or something. We haven't fully worked out the details. Is anybody up for that? That doesn't sound popular. Maybe we pitch them. BB, is it called BB-9E? BB-9E?
BB-9E.
The Imperial one. So I got to draw that in the BB-8 book. That's really fun to draw. That's because it looked like I thought R5-D4. You remember the red droid that Luke nearly buys in the first Star Wars? At the Jawa market, and it's got a bad motivator and its head blows up. It's kind of like somebody put that design aesthetic, if like Ford manufactured cars. Was it you?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Jake Lunt Davies. So that feels like, if Ford or Volkswagen are making droids, and they've gone, what are we going to sell to that?
An evil
corporation? We'll give them that. They'll buy that one. Look at it. We'll make it look. It feels like it's got a design logic to it in that world. This one, what's this one that's got like a jigsaw body thing? That's like an early pass.
These are just ideas for rebel droids, but it ended up.
But that looks like a wheels going through the middle of it to me.
Yeah.
You should resell that to somebody else, I think.
A little thing though, just to go back to BB-9E, on set, his nickname was BB-Hate because he's evil.
They should have
called it that. I don't know why. But... BB-H8 would have been better.
Whilst we're talking about droids, we didn't even mention this yesterday. Can we talk about the new droid? Your new baby?
What, B2EMO?
B2EMO. Does anybody know that one?
Andor.
Do you know Andor, the series that's about to drop? So there's a little red... I guess it's his companion in it, right?
I think so, yeah.
So you've all seen Rogue One? You know he's got that tall, gangly K2SO, which I really liked.
It's not mine.
No, but I know. I really liked that performance. He's a bit on the spectrum, isn't he? And he's a bit like, I really liked it.
He is very funny.
Yeah.
Very funny.
So he can't be an Andor yet then if he's got... I'm just guessing, I don't know. He doesn't seem to be in the trailers. It looks like he's got a little...
No, he's got this little red droid.
So
that's my design as well.
And it
compresses.
I said it looked like a broken Kit Kat or something. Then I said something really. But can you do an impression of it? It sort of sandwiches like a concertina.
Well, you just said the words.
Is that what it does?
It definitely does.
Yeah.
It sandwiches
on his Instagram, it's got a little thing of it going.
Oh yeah, I just did got the toy and went did. Yeah.
Behind the magic.
Again, it's another totally mechanical droid built by Neil Scanlon's Creature Shop. Totally
Have you seen it in real life?
Yeah.
Happy with it?
Yeah. Yeah, very.
So I was saying, does anybody remember The Black Hole, that Disney... There's a Disney movie in the 80s. When I was a child, every single studio went, let's rip off Star Wars, let's do Battlestar Galactica, let's do Star Trek. They all just tried doing Star Wars, and The Black Hole was Disney's one. It's got two little robots in it called...
Old Bob
and Vincent. And they can hide their eyes.
Yeah. There's some influence from very old Black Hole.
Yeah, I thought nobody's nicked Black Hole.
It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Sound like I'm selling Disney Plus.
Yeah, we're not getting paid for that at all.
For everything in one location, daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video and social media feeds, bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
How long have we got left in this little...
10 minutes.
Should we open it up to questions? Has anybody got questions for us? Well, I've got a question for the audience before we start. Claire in the family, did you get in?
Yes.
Oh, cool. All right, good. Anybody got any questions?
Did you make BB-8? I mean, no, R2-D2.
Did I what?
Make R2-D2.
Did I make R2-D2?
Like, drawn him.
I've drawn him a lot, and I did a book about R2-D2, but the guys who designed R2-D2...
I'll tell you if I can get the story really quickly, because it's quite a long story, but R2-D2, the Builders Club, there was a guy, Lee Towersey, who currently makes all the R2s for the films. He used to be he still is in the R2 Builders Club, but they were at Celebration in Essen a year before Force Awakens started being made, and they just went up to Kathleen Kennedy. She was looking at the droids going, wow, these should be in the film, and they just said, we can do it. And him and Oliver, who's also in the R2-D2 Builders Club, got employed and worked with the Creature Effects department, and now Lee works on Star Wars. It's like a dream.
That's his job.
It's his hobby to job. It's just, I'm still stunned by it. He's just.
I met him. He's a really nice guy. All the people that build the R2-D2. I met him here, I think, at SpaceX one year, and his was the best R2-D2 I've ever seen. You get one where the sensor scope comes out. You get one that his did everything. Every compartment kind of had. I was like, yours is really. And sometimes I would do how to draw Star Wars with an R2-D2 on stage. He'd come up and you're late, R2, and do that kind of thing. So I think Lee might have helped me on one. I think he was going to come to something else, and then he got the call. So I lost my best R2-D2. Anyway, he's working on the films. Yeah. But he was just like one of us guys here.
Yeah, he'd be at all the conventions.
So he does be R2-D2. I've drawn him. I did the book about R2-D2, How to Speak Droid, and I've drawn him on T-shirts and badges. And who designed R2-D2? I guess Ralph McQuarrie. Ralph McQuarrie invented the look of him.
Yeah, there's that famous picture. One of the art is Ralph McQuarrie and C-3PO. They don't quite look like C-3PO.
It's like a lady.
Yeah, it's a bit feminine, and they're walking through the desert.
And he's got more arms. R2-D2's got more arms, like a spider.
And I think Chopper was an original Ralph McQuarrie. Yeah. Chopper from what's Chopper in?
Rebels.
He was based on an original Ralph McQuarrie. Ralph McQuarrie did all the, if you don't know, did all the original concept art for the Star Wars And one of the sketches he did, designing R2-D2, they took that and made it into Chopper. So it's got heritage, that design.
Did that really long, windy answer?
End of questions. No.
You're called Jack, right? Yeah, I remember you.
Has anyone else got a question? I can see, an arm. I saw that arm there.
It's like a column of arms in the middle.
Yes, you looked round. Oh, look, you've got a microphone coming at you.
Oh, we're on it this time. It was a baggy mesh yesterday.
Yes. Have you met Mark Hamill?
Yes.
Hey!
I gave Mark Hamill, I was in Japan and gave Mark Hamill my Luke Skywalker. Do you want my Luke Skywalker print? And he was like, cool. And then I went, will you sign one for me? And he went, yeah, all right. And it was just at kicking out time. And then we had to walk through the security, like, you've got to go. And he came to see the artist. He's nice. And then we walked through a giant convention centre. And we just chatted about Batman. He's really into Batman and he plays the Joker. So we just were banging on about comics. And we didn't talk about
You've
Star Wars.
met him more than I have. I just met him in a sort of very work environment. Yes, talking about some things you're going to be doing, blah, blah, blah. And we didn't really chat.
He seems really nice, though.
Yeah, he's lovely.
So yes. Double yes for that answer.
Okay, I saw somebody in front of you, because it was going, yes.
What inspired Ray Speeder?
Ray Speeder. Here we go.
Do you want me to do it while you talk?
Oh, there we go. Ray Speeder was inspired by those bunch of things here, mainly these tractors. It had to be kind of agricultural and old and junky, and I quite like these old race cars from the 20s and 30s. So, they're fast, and obviously tractors are pretty slow, and Ray Speeder isn't. So it was a kind of combination of feeling like this brutish thing which would power through the desert, but had an agricultural feel. And there's also, I think as I was doing it, I thought, you know what? It's a little bit like Luke's land speeder, just turned on its side as well. And they're both simple shapes. It's a slab, either way you do it. That's it.
When I first saw that on the trailer, I was like, it's like someone's like tipped a land speeder and customised it, and it's a bit like a tractor. That's dope.
I'm glad you thought of that.
Yeah, and then I went, it also looks a bit like a Magnum lollipop.
Yes.
That's a compliment.
I've seen photoshops where people have put lolly sticks out the back.
But I think the trailer came out, and the first thing I drew, just as a fan going, I kind of drew BB-8 and the speeder and went, this is going to be a doddle. This is going to be a doddle at conventions if anybody asks for this stuff. Because a lot of the prequel stuff's like really like, I can't draw a pod racer, it's really hard. So. And what I like about Jake is he shows his influences. A lot of artists don't, and I'm not going to name anybody.
Okay.
I talked to an artist once and I went, you nicked that. I've been to this thing that you've nicked. It's a place in England that looks like Yavin and nobody knows about it. I was like, if I ever get on a Star Wars film, I'm going to film a bit there. And this guy had taken a photo of this thing off the internet and done something else to it and put an alien. And I went, I know what you did. And he was, no, I didn't. I digitally painted it on. I was like, you but you didn't. You definitely didn't. And people hide their influences. Jake's really open about, look how obvious it is. I was looking at this track to this. I think that's quite rare.
And it's also, I don't know. Well, thank you. I think it is important because I think one of the key things as well about Star Wars design, say compared to, I'm not Star Trek or some other science fiction designs, is it's really grounded in terrestrial, our Earth's reality, the things that you recognise. So you kind of subconsciously recognise so many elements, and they all look believable and real because you recognise things about them, which makes it sort of real, really. Looking at things that you kind of recognise, I'm repeating myself now.
But
it's important, really. And there's so many real-life influences in Star Wars.
Any other questions before we pop off?
I can't see.
I can see you, but you've asked one. Hang on.
I don't think there's any other question. Oh, no, there's a white arm.
There's a white arm there. Hello, white arm.
Do you get invited to design, or do you have to apply for the job to design?
Oh, well, from my point of view, it's a really tough industry in that it's slightly down. No, I mean, they don't advertise the jobs. They don't.
They do sometimes. For a minute, there was a concept designer.
Yeah, you can go on. You can go on like Lucasfilm's website, and they do have job openings. But there are opportunities. But on the actual films, they tend to. There'll be like Neil Scanlon who employed me, or the production designers who employ other concept artists. They tend to have worked with them before, or they'll get a recommendation from somebody they know. It's all very word of mouth. And if you can get a foot in the door on a film set, then you've got a chance for speaking to those people, and then maybe, hopefully, they'll remember you. But people do apply. I know that Neil, I'm working on Andor at the moment, and a whole new bunch of people, they'll ask people for CVs, and they will employ people. And I only got it because I'd worked with Neil like 10 years beforehand, so he did know me, and I'm lucky in that we had some history. But it's quite hard to get into. It took me a long time.
And I secretly have kind of auditioned for, I have to be careful about what I say, I auditioned for sort of concept designer role on one of the films, and I had to, you can see my stuff's the really cartoony stuff that looks like a bit like a child's drawn it, right? So I was very aware that if you draw that Boba Fett, that's not the guy you're going to hire to do concept design, is it? So I was thinking this is an uphill battle for me to convince them that I can paint and draw realistically. But then somebody that was working on The Force Awakens went, the producer, Tommy Gormley's got your How to Speak Wookiee book desk. So I sent him an email going, Jedi Mind Trick, maybe you want to hire me as a... And he passed me on to somebody else, and it never happened. And I did some concept work, and it wasn't the right time. They couldn't afford another crew member, or that's what they were telling me. Maybe they thought it was rubbish. But even if you work for Star Wars, it's not a guarantee that you can get through that other door. Does anybody want to do concept work? No.
Or work in film.
Yeah, that is miserable. Oh, you do? Yeah? You've got kind of more chance than we have, if you know what I mean.
Or have you got a question?
There was only 3 films when we were little. Now there's loads of them, so you've got statistically more chance of it happening.
Has he got a question? Yeah. Go on, ask your question.
Has Star Trek inspired anything from Star Wars?
Oh, crossover. Don't merge the streams. I don't know. No. We actually look at alien designs on Star Trek and think there's a whole different way. I'm not really a big Star Trek fan. I don't know enough about it. Haven't watched enough of it. But I do know that their alien designs are approached very differently to...
It's usually like a person painted blue with a cornflake on the head or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of very fancy, exotic makeup and twiddly bits, which Star Trek aliens don't look like Star Wars aliens. And I suppose we consciously don't... If we think, it looks a bit too Star Trek, let's not do that. Not because we hate it, but because it doesn't fit into the same design.
I would argue, there's one that Captain Kirk fights in the 60s, and they're in like a sort of deserty, rocky place in America. It's meant to be a planet.
They usually are, aren't they?
And yeah, he's doing his double-fisted punch onto him, and it's like a lizard with silver eyes, and it's a bit like Bosk. There's anybody ever got any Trekkies in? There's a lizard that I think looks... You could put him in the back of the Mandalorian, and it would... Yeah. You'd have to give him a camera jacket.
There are some funny, weird ones in, like in the cantina. They just got some old stuff out from... Some of those are literally like...
The original cantina's like werewolf masks and all kinds of joke shop masks.
And that devil mask, just stuff they could find,
Yeah. Any more questions before we jet?
I think we've...
It's going 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
Question over here a long time ago that I've been stood here with a microphone for.
Okay. Oh, really? We can't see anything. Sorry.
What's your favourite Star Wars movie or series and why?
What's my favourite Star Wars movie? My favourite thing at the moment is The Mandalorian. In the new things, I think The Mandalorian's great, and I really like Rogue One. Rogue One's my favourite new film. From the old stuff, I like all 3 of the original trilogy. I like all 3. What's yours?
Well, I was going to say, Empire Strikes Back, because that's the first one I saw, and it was just that magic moment. That's what's seared into my brain. AT-ATs walking across Hoth. Just, oh wow.
What's your favourite one? Good choice.
Yay.
The beginning bit, all the way up to like when they explode Jabba's sail barge. Amazing.
I think we've run out of time.
We are in the main bit. Is it called the main bit?
I don't know.
We're next to the Palitoy dudes. We have tables. You can come and see us.
Ask any other questions.
You can ask us questions really close up. Smell our breath. Horrible. I had garlic. I've got my books. If you want my books, I'd draw you as a droid or a Wookiee in them and give you a droid or a Wookiee name. You're drawing BB-8s and Porgs and things.
I've drawn some. I don't know if I'm going to draw them all.
You can actually buy original artwork off us at quite a reasonable price.
And I'll sign a print.
or you can buy prints, or
Concept art.
you can have a little Boba Fett card for free, that kind of thing. Not everybody, but I've got some of them. So come and see us if you want to hang out. If not, thank you very much for having us. I'm really thrilled you came to see us, so thank you very much.
We've answered the questions.
Myself and Jake Detonator took a walk around the National Space Centre, and it would have included you, Mark. It really would have included you, but you were packing down your table. A busy man of responsibility like you are, I didn't want to disturb you. So trying to avoid all the clanging and the banging as we were.
And swearing.
This is me and Jake Detonator. You try, don't you? This is me and Jake Detonator walking around the National Space Centre, having a chat about the state of Star Wars, what's going on in our respective lives, and all of the good stuff.
So it's packed down time at Return of the Garrison, the National Space Centre in Leicester. I'm here with Jake Detonator. Hello, Jake. How are you?
Hello, Mark. I'm wiped out.
Yeah, that's a common thing at the moment. How's your weekend been?
It's been amazing. I'm a bit spangled.
Yeah.
Like you just saying it's like the takedown part of it. It's not stopped, has it?
It hasn't stopped.
It's been manic in a good way. So I don't know if I'm talking sense or not. I can't tell anymore. Because we've done two. You did your podcast. I've done two things on stage each day, and we've been at the table. So it's been relentless in the best way.
We saw a bit of, because we recorded some of it, we saw a bit of your panel. It was your drawing panel, and Jake came up with you.
How to draw. I do a thing called How to Draw Star Wars, and anybody listening who hasn't seen it, which is probably loads of it started at Celebrations doing like small workshops, and it was Lucasfilm said, does anybody want to do the kids room?
Yeah.
And it was a free thing, and it was little. It was a little thing, and then they got bigger, and then I did some Star Wars books, and it became more of a thing. Yeah. And then the Bath Literature Festival a few years ago, when you do your How to Draw thing, we'll pay you a fee, authors, right? Mm-hmm. You turn into an author, it's a different. We'll pay you a fee, and can we do a theatre of 300? And I was like, that's not a drawing workshop anymore. So it became more like a performance. Yeah. And the more you muck around, I felt like if they're paying £7, I'd better give them something value. So I was always like, it's like a one-man show kind of thing.
Well, we saw that. I mean, you're drawing stuff, you're getting the kids engaged. At the end of the piece, you're tearing it off and saying, who wants this? And the kids are really going for it.
It just turns into like this commercial capitalism kind of like riot of like...
40
it was €40, 4,000 euros. I signed a water bottle and the kid said he'd pay 20 grand for it. It's like a nutty, just mucking around. But they genuinely love it.
You get a kick out, you can tell
I'm buzzing off it. And the more, Leicester's been great, the minute you walk in. So we're doing it in a planetarium, which is like it's like a domed cinema. They can project your logo onto this.
Like a volume.
Like the volume. It's like, so you feel like you're in The Mandalorian already. The energy's... I can tell when it's going to go off. The energies, they're all excited. It's the way the Space Centre have set it up. They've advertised us as... There's advertisers as like star guests, and it does make a difference. You go to some conventions and you're third down from the actors or whatever. I think they decided that everyone's met the actors a million times. Let's do more creativity type stuff, and I think it's paid off because it's just been rammed, and everyone's having a great time.
It's been chocker. We've done well with the podcast, and kids are interacting. It's definitely got that. It's a science area, so kids are here to learn, and they certainly seem to pick up on that.
And no offence to any of you who are listening that are really hardcore Star Wars nerds like I am, but you have the really hardcore kind of nerds that really like. I've always found this one. And you are my peoples, don't get me wrong, but this one's families. Yeah. It's always been... There's all kinds of Star Wars fans here, but it's families. And that, for me, when it's for kids... Yeah. I don't know, I just find that, it's a better laugh. Yeah. The way kids view Star Wars. Yeah. Did you invent R2-D2? No, because... I'd be your age when I did that. They come up with these like nutty abstract things that...
Oh, and I heard them all trying to guess your age. Somebody shouted 97, which I thought was the
best. No concept of age or money. No. I used to say if kids had Apple Pay, I'd be a millionaire, wouldn't I?
You would be.
Dad, that's the best thing I've ever seen. How much is it? €5,000. Yeah. I don't know why euros is funny.
I don't know. It suits.
I think it was the thing I used to go to art college with one of the Mighty Boosh,
right?
And we were flatmates for years before anybody knew. And I think it was just a thing we thought was funny.
Yeah.
I think it's in the Boosh. I think they've done it, but How much is that? That's €40. I don't know why it's funnier than saying pounds.
And what's next for you? What's on the books?
Sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep now. What's next? It's a bit of a weird time because I am, as of October, so I've got a baby who's 1 next month.
Yeah.
And
has that changed your perspective on doing this?
Not on this. No, I got a little.
in general.
I got a little teary-eyed. I did Sci-Fi Scarborough. That's a really nice event, and that's from my neck of the woods. And one of the droid builders had this little go-kart with a pit droid. Pit droid. The Phantom Menace pit droid.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like a little 4-year-old pedaling a go-kart that's been pimped up to look Star Wars universe. And I'd seen it static. I'd seen it. Oh no, it's his. It came past my table and looked at me, paused and looked, and I interacted with it like it was a little child.
Yeah.
And when you've built this beautiful, puppeteering or whatever you want to call it, and I got a little wet-eyed going, when Miko's 3 and he sees a real Dalek and he sees a real Stormtrooper and he sees, you know the slightly flabby guy dressed as Superman. You don't care when you're that age; it's the real one, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
So I did get a bit.
Yeah. All this magic's ahead.
That perspective changed.
Yeah.
But we're away from. I don't want to.
You're still at the nappy stage.
I'm still at the nappy stage. So at the moment, it's this weird. I'm going to go on sabbatical for a bit. Rachel's gone back to work.
Cool.
I'm going to be full-time dad for 3 days a week, and I've just been offered a contract as a senior lecturer at Ravensbourne University, 2 days a week, which is this weird. Literally came in. Somebody's left. They need a pair of safe hands, and somebody went. I've worked in education occasionally. Somebody went, Jake, we'll do that, and it feels like that just dovetails around the childcare.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'm going to get any time to do any work. I'll have to go in the studio a week. So I'm just going to do it until Christmas and see how that works out.
Brilliant.
And I've got to get a Celebration print worked up and submitted.
Yeah.
I've got a Rogue One print that got turned down for Celebration. And I've showed some of you that on Instagram. I put it out in public and just said this is the one that got away.
Yeah.
People's reaction to it was amazing. So if that's any of you lot, thank you. But I'm going to try and talk to somebody about licensing it. I kind of want it to have it. Yeah. I'd like to have it out by Celebration.
Yeah.
I've got to find a licensor, licensee. And I've got some commissions and bits and bobs to finish before this month. I've got to get on it and finish some hip hop commissions. I can't remember what else I've got to finish. Do you know what I mean? There's loads of things to finish before. And then Star Wars wise, last time I spoke to Chronicle, so I've done a book called How to Speak Wookiee about 10 years ago. Then we did a How to Speak Droid book with R2-D2, and this one, I've got one left in mind. It's been good with the books called How to Speak Astromech with BB-8, and you press the buttons and it makes noises. So these, I'd like to do a fourth one. I pitched it as a third one. Mm-hmm. And it was a story. I'd worked out a plot and a really good angle. And Chronicle were really excited, and somebody at Lucasfilm was really excited. It just didn't happen. And then when they came to me with this book a couple of years ago, because of the toy module, you work on it so far in advance. So I was working on it. It's got D.O. in it. Nobody knew what D.O. was. They sent me one picture of D.O. Yeah. Didn't tell me if it's a goodie or a baddie. Or, it was like, what?
Yeah.
So there's this kind of nutty period of sitting on the secrets or whatever. When they got in touch with me and said, good luck with the third book, it wasn't my third book. It was this. So somebody... I don't know how that worked. I pitched it to Chronicle. So maybe that'll be the fourth book. It depends on if this one... It was like, let's see how this one does. Yeah. If this one sells well, then they might greenlit. But the fourth one I'm excited about because these are stories. Yeah. It's like I've got a story that I think fits in. Yeah. It fits in Star Wars. It could be the week after the Death Star's blown up or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's a really funny little story that if you pay attention to the canon, it doesn't ruin anything.
Okay.
It's a little backstory that nobody's thought of, I think, right?
Okay.
And nobody went, that's a stupid idea. They all it was looking like it was going to get green.
Okay.
So I don't know. There's loads of Star Wars stuff I've done that hasn't been seen.
Yeah.
And Jake Lunt, Davies will tell you that sometimes that gets reconditioned into something else. Yeah. So bottom dry ideas, you turn them upside down and it becomes something. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So.
Well, fingers crossed.
I don't know what's happening, really.
Who does?
Who does? And then we're going to do a little thing, aren't we?
We are.
So Mark talked to me about, we're going to do something special for Celebration what do you call it? Fantha Tracks times Jake Detonator. I don't know. We're going to do a little collab. I can't speak. And then so there'll be something.
Yeah.
We'll reveal that. All shall be revealed.
All in due time.
We shall reveal ourselves to the Jedi when the time is. You've had a good time, haven't you?
I've loved it. It's brilliant. I like this place. It's a nice room, and people are friendly, and Malika's great, and everyone's helpful.
Yeah, they always really look after us. We got so Malika had asked me to sort of help curate. It was the idea of getting more creative things for families rather than actors that are tired.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking anybody, but when you get to a certain age, you're just a bit worn out when you've done like 3 hours of signing.
Yeah.
So I think they were like, we just want, when Malcolm Tween used to come, people who were like engaged with the crowds and kids were like, so I picked a few names, but one of them was Jake Lunt Davies, who is the concept designer of VBA and Pogs, and you probably all know who he is. So I kind of rang him and went, I bumped into him at a thing and went, I wanted to talk to you. I've got an idea. We'll call it The Two Jakes, which is the sequel to Chinatown.
Exactly, yeah.
Nobody's even...
I got it.
There's about 3 of us, but it just made me laugh, right?
Yeah.
And I did a logo for it that's Star Wars. It looks like the Kenobi graphics, but with a Porg on it. And he's not done this before.
No.
He's busy. He's not a convention guy. Yeah. So he was like, I don't know how it works. What if ring me and go, what do I do? For people like me, he just didn't know if and we've had the best time. He's got I've kind of got like a samurai top knot now. You can't see me, but I just didn't cut my hair after the pandemic, and I had a baby, so I've got this top knot, hipster top knot. He's got one as well.
Yeah,
I'd seen him with his hair down, but so we sort of even look. Yeah. We've been joking that we look like 2 knackered samurai.
You do, and
thanks.
That's all right. And yesterday when we were back at the hotel, and there was a couple at the bar who was sort of Star Wars
funny,
knowledgeable.
That was really funny.
And they couldn't believe that you'd maybe met twice, 2 or 3 times, something like that.
No, the chemistry genuinely feels like you think we'd known each other. We've almost got like a double act now.
Yep.
So we did the 2 Jakes on stage, just us chatting about his work on Star Wars, my work on Star Wars, and then the first one was kind of good, but not as good as we were in the pub. And then the second one felt like we didn't repeat any of it. We just did another set of things, and that felt really loose. And there was little jokes and things that were already just, And then Jake came into my How to Draw things. Normally I do an hour. These because there's so many different. There's you guys. There's the Palitoy guys that we sort of said. I said, do you want to jump in? Because I draw BB-8 and talk about the little panels and say another British guy called Jake. He's called Jake Lunt Davies. He designed BB-8. He can't remember what's on the panels to try and give kids the confidence to you don't have to get it completely right.
Just
it's not the UK Garrison where they're going to go. It's got to be screen accurate. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be.
Yeah.
Kids can be sort of freer than that. So I said did the sort of kind of same routine and then went. Well, actually, should we ask him? He's in the audience, and he popped up. So he shows what the little shapes are, and then he forgets one, so it proves my point. I think that was genuine. I don't think that was part of the act. Yeah. And then we did a draw. So the first day we did Dio, which he designed, which of course he's better at drawing than I am. I forgot what the wheel looked like. It's a wheel and a lamp, and I still couldn't get it right. Yeah. And then we did X-Wings, which was a bit like we both looked at each other like, that's a bit like, but I said to him, it's going to be funnier. The more car crashy it is, if we're really bad at it, kids think that's hilarious.
Of course they do.
But he nailed it, and mine looked awful. Mine looked like the Palitoy one, but I ran out of room, so the wing fell off the page. It was. But kids think that's funny. So it's been brilliant. It's been like really buzzy.
Awesome.
I've genuinely loved. I've always loved being at the Space Centre.
Yeah.
But this time has felt. Jeremy's left us, Dave's gone, Kenny's gone. There was a nutty period where you were having lunch with Kenny Baker and Dave Browsey's going, he wants some pick and mix. And I'm like, are you allowed to eat pick and mix? Oh, he loves sweets, me. Well, it's what I want, me. And he'd go and order a load of pick and mix and then get Julian to pay for it. Do you know what I mean? There was really. We were out in Seattle with Julian recently talking about that. There was that nutty period where you're hanging around with the people who were with the Star Wars figures, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It
was like I had
the toys you played with.
Yeah. Jeremy, I was pretty close to Jeremy, I would say. We did a lot of things together. So Jeremy and Maureen were like, I don't know, they were like work pals. You saw them quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then it was slowly they were like, So it could be a sad thing coming back to Space Centre and it's like everybody's gone, but I think it's had a reboot in a different way.
Yeah.
Malika's been really sharp about how do we program it, so there's been queues for everything, haven't there?
Absolutely.
The planetarium's been like rammed, I think, from nearly every. We sold out.
Yeah.
I think all 4.
Yeah.
How to Draw definitely sold out.
Yeah.
I think me and Jake on Sunday didn't quite sell out until right before it, but it still sold out. So I mean,
what can you ask for?
Happy days, right?
Totally.
Happy days. So yeah, it's been spot on.
Brilliant.
It's been really good.
Well, thanks for giving us a few minutes.
Always a pleasure to
Nice
talk
to
to you.
catch up.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for listening to Making Tracks. If you want to be a part of the action and stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Adam O'Brien for our Making Tracks opening music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember, tune in to Good Morning Tatooine. It's live Sunday evenings at 9 o'clock UK, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on Facebook and YouTube. And check out our Fantha Tracks Radio Friday night rotation every Friday night at 7 p.m. UK time for new episodes of The Fantha from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks, Cannon Fodder, and special episodes of Making Tracks. And that's me done for this episode.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's another episode of Making Tracks.